25 years of Slipknot. Let's talk about Slipknot. Slipknot been celebrating 25 years of Slipknot recently on their Instas and things like that. It's actually been 29 years if you want to get technical though. Like Slipknot were actually formed in 1995. Their debut album was released in 1999. Their self-titled debut album. So it's been 25 years since the debut album, but it's actually 29 years of Slipknot. But in any case, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. By the way, how many people know that Corey Taylor was not an original Slipknot member? In fact, the only original Slipknot member right now is Sean Crayon, Mr. Clown. How many people know that? Probably a lot more people know that than it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I want to talk about Slipknot. So yeah, it's 25 years since the debut album, so there's been a lot of posts about, Slipknot 25th anniversary, things like that. I remember when that album came out. I think by the time I heard of Slipknot, it probably was about 1999 actually. In fact, what I remember is at the time I was in uni and I was going to uni, and I saw these two girls in a train station and they're both wearing Slipknot sweaters. Never heard of the band before that, so I just saw these sweaters and I thought the sweaters looked really cool. So it just kind of it kind of stuck in my mind. The sweaters they're wearing and the S that they did, the way they do the S, kind of stuck in my mind. I was like, man, those are really cool sweaters. And then I got into uni that very same day, and my friend at uni was like, because I was surrounded by a lot of metalheads at uni, so it was quite common to talk about this sort of stuff. So my friend at uni was like, oh yeah, have you heard about this band Slipknot? And I'm like, oh, I just saw these two girls wearing a jersey because you were showing me the logo, and I was like, all right, cool. Well, that's a sign, right? That's a sign. I just saw them. That's just saw the logo very first time at the train station, and my friends telling me about it. And when I get in, so I'm like, that's a sign. So yeah, I'll check them out. I was listening to them, and if I remember correctly, it might have been a Napster thing, It might have been a Napster thing at the time. It just might have been. I mean, I did buy the album, by the way. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. I did buy the album. But I think the very first time I listened to it might have been a Napster thing. I know I was on Napster a lot during that time, so it just might have been a Napster thing. The very first time I heard Slipknot, but yeah, I did actually buy the album. Did buy the debut album, and it was phenomenal. It was awesome. I remember listening to that album a lot. And also what was really cool is by the time the second album came out, I didn't know it was coming out. I just happened to be walking down Oxford Street, and I just happened to be wearing my Slipknot t-shirt, and I just happened to see that they had like the promotional, cardboard things that they put out at the front of the store sometimes. Just happened to notice that. And so I walked in, and I believe I walked in at the same time a couple of other Slipknot fans were walking in, because I saw they were wearing Slipknot stuff as well. And then literally that same day is when the album was coming out. I didn't know it was coming out. I just happened to be wearing my Slipknot t-shirt, just happened to be walking past Oxford Street, and I just had to be seeing that they released an album that very simple. So of course I bought it. Iowa was a fantastic album though as well. In fact, I'd say for me, my Slipknot listening peak was definitely between those first three albums, Slipknot, Iowa, and Volume 3. And I did still listen to them now, so I have heard that. I'm not saying that, but I'll say the most amount of Slipknot listening for me was those first three albums. And after that, life things, stuff happens, and I'm hearing stuff, I'm listening to it, and they release some great stuff. I ain't saying that, but it's just, I would say that was definitely my Slipknot peak in terms of how much I was listening to Slipknot, was definitely between those first three albums, and after that just kind of took a back seat to just other stuff going on in life. And that's kind of what I want to really talk about actually, because one thing I've realized with Slipknot is that they were really the last bands that I became a fan of, right? And what I mean by that is, because I think the way I describe a fan and the way people think of fans now might be a bit different. So what I mean by that is, when I say fan, I mean like when you're really checking for them, when you're really checking for like all the stuff coming out. Granted, I know I missed stuff. Like, I didn't even know the second album was coming out. Like, I missed stuff. That just is what it is. But, you know, you're really checking for them. You're trying to keep up as best as you can. You know, you're buying the t-shirts, you know, you buy, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, you're really into it, right? Because I used to be like that with Metallica, with Pantera, with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and a few other bands at the time, like maybe Blur a little bit as well. But the last band for me that I was really a fan of was Slipknot. And there's been lots of like musicians since then, like even now, like I ain't trying to be one of these guys who are like, oh, modern day music is trash. I don't think that. Or I think a lot of artists now are fantastic. They're doing some amazing things. Definitely a lot of stuff that I've bought. You know, I tend to buy more vinyl nowadays, so people are releasing, because you know, you got like streaming apps and stuff to listen to music on, which is cool. I like that. It's convenient, but artists that I like, I try to buy things like vinyl, because I think vinyl's kind of my cool thing now. I know it's old school, but it's kind of my cool thing now. So I like to buy vinyl to support artists. But I've bought like CDs and stuff like that. And I've seen artists, you know, perform live, you know, when they've done gigs and stuff. So there's definitely a lot of artists now that I think are amazing, brilliant, doing some great stuff. I ain't saying that. But when it comes down to it, I'm not really a fan of anybody anymore. Like even, you know, Slipknot, Metallica, and, you know, I'm not really a fan like I used to be anymore. And part of that is, you know, life gets in the way, right? You're getting older, you're doing different things, your priorities shift and stuff like that. And, you know, I feel like that is probably the biggest part of it. And also, I guess myself as an individual, the way I've listened to music has changed. And just the fact, like, you know, I think streaming has played a part of it as well. As much as I like streaming as it provides a massive convenience to how you listen to music, it does mean that you can listen to pretty much anything at any time. Like, you know, back in the day, like, you know, you had to buy the CD. And I'm not the first to say this, but you had to go out, you had to make a conscious effort to go out, to put your clothes on, to get dressed, you know, and buy the CD. And when it comes to buying music, you gotta understand, like a CD, like an album, was like, you know, £12, £13 at the time. I don't know what they cost now, because I haven't bought a CD album for the longest. If they've still selling, probably about the same price, I imagine, like £13, £14, maybe £15. Probably about that, I'd imagine. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You bought an album for like, you know, £12, £13, whatever, right? If you're streaming music now, like, you pay about that much a month, and you can listen to literally anything. So back in the day, if all you had was, let's say all you had was £15, you had to choose carefully, right? You had to choose carefully about which album you bought. You couldn't just buy an album and be like, I hope for the best. You know, I mean, you kind of did it to some extent anyway. Of course, it's just how it goes, because you hear a few singles and you kind of decide what you like. And there's definitely albums that I bought back in the day that I thought were going to be good, and they turned out to be trash. It happens. But for the most part, you kind of like, you had the singles, you kind of had to be, you know, as sure as you can when you bought an album. These days, you pay your £12 a month and you listen to anything at any time. And like I say, there's some great artists now, some amazing artists now, but when it comes down to it, I feel like because of that, or partly because of that, not only because of that, like I say, there's just stuff going on in life and things and whatever and da-da-da. But I feel like streaming has played a part in the fact that, you know, the way I interact with music and the way I think of myself as a fan of music, or, you know, a fan of an artist has massively changed, you know. So yeah, I don't know if that's a bad thing. It just is what it is, I suppose. And, you know, like I said, there's still great artists, still artists that I listen to, still artists that I buy. So I guess it's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. But it's definitely a difference. And for me, Slipknot, for better or worse, is the last band that I became a fan of. The last band that I really got into in that way, where you wanted to know as much as you can about them. You wanted to watch as many interviews as you can about them. You wanted to, you know what's going on and check this and check that and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's just not me anymore. It's just not me anymore. It's growing up, I guess, getting older, life. But I think streaming has played its part as well in that, and the way we consume music over the years has played its part in that as well. But anyway, 25 years since Slipknot's debut album, 29 years since Slipknot formed in Des Moines, Iowa. But yeah, Here's to another 25 years of Slipknot. Let me not make sure I'm not, okay, cool, we good. Sometimes they were like, put your details on these things. I'm like, I didn't just like dox myself, but I think we good, we good. So 25 more years of Slipknot, and just great music wherever you can get it. Peace.